Hey guys, it's Hoenn here, and today we have something special. In front of us is Gigabyte's latest addition to its P55 series of gaming laptops, the P55W V5-SL3. Let's take a tour of the outside, shall we? The whole body is a sleek black hard plastic with an orange trim, which in my opinion looks very sick, but it has the drawback of being a big fingerprint magnet. On the left side of the computer we have a Kensington lock, the fan vents, VGA port, HDMI port, Gigabit Ethernet, a USB Type-C connector, and a USB 3.0 port. On the front of the laptop there are a pair of speakers that we'll get to later on, and an SD card reader. On the right side we have a dedicated microphone jack, dedicated headphone jack, two USB 3.0 ports, a DVD disc drive, and a DC port to charge the laptop. On the top of the computer is all black save for a sleek Gigabyte logo. The bottom of the fan has some standard rubber feet and a couple vents with a back plate. Out of warranty sake I won't be opening it up, but there are some upgradable parts that we'll get to later on. Now inside of the laptop itself, it has a 15.6 inch 1080p IPS display with some nice viewing angles. The colors look sharp, rich, and bright, with the blacks looking deep. Beneath the display there is some branding, and above the display there is an HD webcam. The hinges of the display are pretty sturdy, and the display stays where you want it without much trouble. Now to the keyboard and the trackpad. This is where things get a little bit iffy. The keyboard is nice. Gigabyte advertises a 2.2mm travel distance, which to me feels like just like a regular standard laptop keyboard, but that's besides the point. It is backlit, although it only has two brightness levels that it can be at, so that's kind of a bummer. Besides the backlighting problem in quotation marks, the keyboard is pretty good in my opinion. Now let's get to the trackpad. It's honestly a joke. It is unresponsive at worst and decent at best. The buttons are integrated within the trackpad, indicated only by a small line in the middle. Hopefully with the driver update these problems can get solved, but for the meantime just go ahead and get a mouse. Now on the underside of that are the speakers. I personally think they sound alright, but sometimes they sound pretty weird. They point downwards at an angle that points straight to the surface that the laptop is resting on, which is why I find that they sound a little bit weird. Now all of this information is nice, but you're probably asking yourselves, well, what the heck is inside of this thing? So don't worry, I didn't forget about that. The P55W version 5 is rocking a Skylake Intel Core i7-6700HQ quad-core processor and a 3GB NVIDIA GTX 970M. It also has Bluetooth 4.1, 802.11 AC Wi-Fi, Gigabit Ethernet, 16 gigs of 2133 MHz DDR4 RAM that can be upgraded to 32 gigs. And for storage it has a 128GB SSD that it uses for the OS and important programs, and a 1TB hard drive for mass storage and games. The computer uses the integrated graphics of the 6700 HQ processor to power the regular stuff like internet browsing and the media consumption, while it uses the GTX 970M when you're gaming. Gaming performance is as you would expect. It does great at almost everything out there. Most games will be able to run at 1080p 60 frames per second on high to ultra settings. I personally play a lot of Black Ops 3 on that laptop, so I found that high to medium setting is the best way to get a solid 1080p 60 frames per second on the P55W. There are plenty of benchmarks out there for the graphics card and many more on the internet. The only thing is that you might want to be plugged into the charger when gaming, because performance is throttled when gaming off of the battery, getting an average of about 30 frames per second off of battery and 60 when plugged in. Speaking of battery, depending on the power setting you have it at, it gives you an estimated battery life of about 2.5 to 7 hours. The more performance you want off of the battery, the shorter the life is going to be. This is why it's better to game when it's plugged in, because that way you can bump up the performance to its max possible setting. This is what I personally do when I'm not gaming. I'm not plugged in, and therefore I have like the least power consumption processing speeds that I can, and I have battery saver on. When plugged in, I just set everything to max and just let the laptop get power from the wall. The 6700 HQ processor that it has is very capable of handling most things that you throw at it. As mentioned before, it has 4 cores with hyperthreading. In other words, it behaves as if it had 8 cores on it, which is always great. The 6700 HQ processor has a core clock speed of 2.6 GHz with a 3.5 GHz turbo boost and no overclocking capabilities. So, with all that being said, would I recommend this laptop to anyone? I would say yes. There are only two drawbacks of the computer. The first one is the trackpad that I mentioned earlier, but I feel like that can be fixed via some software updates or just by using a mouse. And the second problem is that and that's not really more of a problem, it's more of a preference, is that it's kind of heavy. The laptop weighs in at a whopping 5.29 pounds or 2.4 kilograms, which is not light by any means, especially for me personally, coming from MacBook Air. That's really heavy. It took me a while to get used to it, carrying it on my back. If you want something light, then look somewhere else, but if you don't mind the weight, then by all means go ahead and try this out for yourself and see what you think. The bundle I bought came with a mouse pad, a backpack, and 2 games for $12.99 plus taxes and shipping, so in my opinion it was really worth it. Anyways, would you buy one for yourself? Do you think it's too much money? Do you think that there are better options out there for around the same price? Let me know in the comments down below. I'll be answering any questions that you may have there as well. As always, have a great day, and I'll catch you later. Peace.